What's going on, everyone? This is Noah from Spark the Trade Podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Mr. Eric Schultz, the president of USW Local 71, as you were saying. Eric, how's it going?
Good. It's one day longer, one day stronger, I suppose.
That's very
Rolling
true.
over 100 days into this lockout, so obviously things could be better. But all in all, membership's holding up pretty well. The community's been great. So, like I said, one day longer, one day stronger. That's the steelworker motto.
Very true. And I guess just give us a little intro about yourself to begin with, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. President of Local 71. We represent the refinery workers here at British Petroleum, the Whiting Refinery, which is on the southern tip of Lake Michigan, just outside of Chicago. We also we have plant guards that patrol, police the refinery. They're part of our local separate bargaining unit. Whiting Clean Energy, which is another British Petroleum facility across the street. The BP, British Petroleum Pipeline, some of the pipeline employees, as well as the Kinder Morgan bargaining. So we've got several bargaining units. We're an amalgamated local, but the vast majority of our members come out of Refinery. I've been in this role for this will be my fourth contract negotiation, but second as the president. I'm a machinist out in the refinery by trade. And we call it machinist. It's really more of a amalgamated. It's like a millwright machinist.
Cool.
Been doing that since 2009 here. Been on the union board since 2014.
Very cool. Well, I'm going to jump right into this. When I first read about this story, I thought this was a strike. It's actually a lockout. Why would they lock workers out instead of letting them strike in this instance?
We believe that they were pushing us into a strike. They anticipated to goad us into a strike. When you look at the totality of their proposals, as we call them now, they're not proposals, they're ransom letters. When you look at the totality, there's no way the membership was going to agree to this, to what they had on the table, right? So I think they fully expected us to walk. We didn't want to do that. We don't take that lightly. We were a lot of us out here were on strike in 2015, part of a national strike. And we were on strike for 99 days. So I was on the board, and I remember how difficult it was. And I would do it again in a heartbeat. But it's something that you take very seriously. You know how it's going to affect families, how it's going to affect individuals. So we don't take it lightly, and we continue to try to work through differences. At some point, they were paying their scabs so much to be in hotels on standby, waiting for us to strike, that the meter just kept running. So at some point, economically, they had to make a decision. So that's our assumption on how this played out.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's some of these temporary workers that they've brought in, they're paying them, I think it was $127 an hour. And then I believe I read somewhere that they're trying to reduce pay by like $8 to $10 an hour. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's accurate. Yeah, we were able to. I mean, when industrious workers are locked out and don't have anything to do, they find time to go do some research. And we found some LinkedIn posts and some other posts where they were looking for people for a 6-month contract to come up to Whiting, Indiana, to work in a refinery for $127 an hour, which is drastically, obviously, more than what our members make out here. $127 an hour plus benefits. So they're handsomely rewarding these people to come up and scab and try to starve out families. As far as the pay cuts on our end, yeah, it's one of their main proposals is reclassification of every job out here. So, our operators right now, you max out your 5th-year operator. And then if you want, you could bid into an operations specialist role. 2 different routes you can go: specialist board, specialist field, but they're higher paying jobs, more responsibility, more pay. They wanted to reclassify those. Initially they wanted to take the board operator jobs and make them management. They've gotten off with that part of the proposal, but they want final say on who gets to be a board operator. They want final say on who gets to be the highest level of pay in operations, maintenance, and any other job. And yeah, so they want just about everyone to do more work for less money.
And that's absolutely wild to think about, because I was reading, I believe in 2025, BP generated $190 billion in revenue, with their bottom line net profit approximately, I've read anywhere from $7 to $9 billion. And at this point, it just kind of seems like more of a power move, not power move, but they're trying to assert their power over you guys more than anything at this point. If they have no issues bringing in people, paying them not a lot more money, but more money overall. It's a kind of a sickening way of them approaching things, to be honest.
Well, I mean, it's 100%. This isn't something where there was a pain point in the business where our contract was strangling the company. and they couldn't be profitable, and they needed to do something. And we have tough conversations like that. There are times we've had two severance packages in the last 10 years where we downsized and we didn't want to have those conversations, but we did. We make those adjustments. We're not afraid to hard bargain. That's not what this was. This is just we're gonna put so much on the table that there's no way you're gonna accept it. You're gonna go out on strike and we're gonna bust you. This is 100%. They're gonna starve us out until our members can't take it anymore, and then people are gonna be begging to cross. That's their goal. I think they miscalculated. They don't understand the power of this membership. Northwest Indiana's Greater Chicagoland area. This is a union area. So we got the most steel production in the United States comes out of Northwest Indiana. So steel workers are strong out here. The building trades are incredibly strong out here. So yeah, I think they miscalculated, but this is 100%. The purpose of this is to break our union.
And I guess, would you say that is why BP is trying to, or what does BP gain by locking workers out instead of bargaining? Would you say that's more so what you just explained?
I think it's to put pressure, economic pressure, right? If we could have bargained for 3 years and just go back and forth, considering they had over 160 pages worth of proposals. So yeah, they know that it's just human nature, psychology, right? You take people's income away from them and then ask them in a month, are you sure you didn't like that proposal? And then ask them in another month, you sure? How about now? Ask them in
Yeah.
another month. And so there's only been 2 lockouts in the oil industry. So in oil, as far as steelworkers, we represent thousands and thousands of oil workers across the country. We pattern bargaining at a national level. There's only been 2 lockouts in the oil industry in the last 30 years. One guy was responsible for both of them. It's the guy that's running the bargaining here. About 6 years ago, I'd have to look back at the dates. He was working for Exxon in Beaumont, Texas, and they did the same thing to this group. First, they got him off of pattern, meaning everyone else had agreed to a 4-year contract. He got that group to agree to a 6-year contract. Then the very next cycle, when they were off pattern for everybody else, he locked them out for 10.5 months. So
Wow.
while they were locked out, British Petroleum said, I like that guy. I like what he's doing. And they hired him. So while they were locked out, he came to our union hall to introduce himself. And we asked him, have you had any, can you give us some examples of good interactions you've had, fruitful interactions with unions and negative interactions? And he smirked at us and he said, well, he's responsible for the lockout in Beaumont, Texas right now. And that was his answer. So he's clearly here for a purpose. This was something that they've had in the cards for years, which is why we know this isn't a legal lockout. They bargained illegally the entire time. There was no good faith bargaining whatsoever. The intent here was to push us into a strike, and if we weren't going to strike, they were going to lock us out. This is just full court press. They're trying to break our union.
So at this point, you think it's just a union busting activity, and the short term they're willing.
Union busting activity, 100%. There's nothing in our CBA that we can't work with, that we can't. If there's some pain points, every contract cycle we work to alleviate those pain points from the company, and they work to alleviate some pain points from our membership. That's not what they're doing here. This is we want to wipe that. We want that contract to be so weak that eventually Indiana's a right to work state. Eventually, people are going to start wondering, why am I paying union dues? If we gave up our right to bargain this, bargain that, bargain the other, we took pay cuts, we got reclassified, right? So this is 100% just a union busting campaign.
And I find it interesting because I originally started non-union. I obviously talked to a lot of non-union people online and whatnot, and I always find it ironic they talk about how people in the unions have to pay to work, and then you turn around and look at how much money that large organizations or companies pay to bust unions. I think last year's like $500 million was spent on busting unions, probably higher than that, to be honest. But it's always interesting to see the money inflow. They always say follow the money. If you follow the money, it usually leads to interesting things, and this would be one of those instances, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the first quarter of this year, British Petroleum made over $3 billion while we were in there. So if the corporation's able to make over $3 billion with us and with our CBA, and we're the largest refinery for them in the United States, and I think we're the largest refinery for them globally. So we're obviously a huge impact, but it's just not enough, right? I mean, that's the corporate world that we're living in right now, where it's never enough. If we made 3.2, why wasn't it 3.6? Why wasn't it 4.0?
That's true.
And they're willing to, honestly, they're willing to screw over their salaried people just as much as they're willing to screw over us. And they've been slashing their salaried workforce. If it could be done in India or Brazil, they're doing it. If it could be done by AI, they're doing it, right? And for us, if they can bring someone up from Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, and have them come work temporarily for pennies on the dollar and then go back, they'll do that too, which is that's what they're doing right now.
That's absolutely insane. Why do you think BP's only union refinery is the only one fighting these issues at the moment? Maybe they're not the only ones, but why do you think there's such a, I guess, a push for your guys' specific refinery?
We are the only one. You know, we bargain nationally. Every refinery in the country, every corporation that's part of national oil bargaining agreed to the pattern. There's only one other site that's got a work stoppage going on right now, but it wasn't a refinery. It was a chem plant. So every other corporation in the United States was good with national pattern. This goes back to, it has nothing to do with what was said at the table this round of bargaining. They made their mind up when they hired this guy from Exxon. His name's Jordan Marks. When they hired Jordan, they knew exactly what they were getting into. And so now we're living in this, what they had been planning for the last 5-6 years.
Have you guys, I'm assuming, well, I know you guys have been at the bargaining table with them. When do you anticipate, or maybe you guys already have a preset date, but when do you anticipate getting back to the bargaining table with them? Or is there anything on the radar?
Possibly next week. I mean, we've met several times in the last month, but really you could tell all they're doing is doing a wellness check to see if we're ready to crumble yet, which, we've had the joy of being able to tell them, as a matter of fact, no. We've got, every day that this goes on, our men and women get stronger and stronger, and we've got people that are going out and finding other jobs that might not ever come back, which is a fear of ours, that we're going to lose a lot of our talent. But I mean, that's, people are holding their own. And the community support's been great. Other unions, we've gotten, I mean, everything from a $20 check from a retired couple in Arizona to a $10,000 check from a local in Texas.
That's awesome.
We've gotten a ton of community support that's helped us, and the membership feels that they're frustrated. They're tired of this shit. Sorry.
Yeah.
I
No,
lost
you're
my
good.
mouth. But yeah, I mean, people are frustrated and tired of it, but the company just wants to get to the table for us to say mercy, and it's not going to happen. So we can meet 5 days a week, but until they're willing to actually come with some reasonable proposals and get all that nonsense off the table, then what good is it? So we'll continue to meet, because at the same time, maybe we come back to the table and they're starting to crumble. We know that they're not happy with how things are running inside the plant. So unfortunately, we're just in a stare down, right? It's just this waiting game, and who's going to break first, which is where that union support and community support from other locals, from businesses, from neighbors, like that's huge for our members, to keep their spirits up, and to just to help us continue to move on one day at a time.
Yeah. There's for certain power in numbers, and there's power in solidarity. And I know, obviously, I'm not in the Indiana, Chicago area. I'm in Ohio, but I read articles very frequently about it, and it's awesome to see the support that's pouring out for you guys. It's also kind of sad to see that you guys are in that situation, but it's always a positive to see that the support exists. So that part is that's a nice aspect to all of this.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
I
it'd
think,
be a completely different ballgame if we were, in Utah or somewhere where the union density is not as strong, and the community's not behind our members as much. But around here, and again, it's Northwest Indiana, it's Chicago, but it's been national too.
yeah,
We had people reach out from the East Coast and order 10 pizzas for picketers on the line, just because
that's
they wanted to
awesome.
help out. So it's been pretty. It's a bad situation. Nobody wants to be in a situation, but at the same time, if you're looking for the silver linings or looking for reasons to stay positive, there's been thousands of them.
It's awesome. In your opinion, what happens when one local gets pulled out of national bargaining?
You're on your own, right? You're on your own. So you lose your strength in numbers. You lose the solidarity with the group. But I mean, it cuts both ways too. National oil bargaining or national bargaining for steel, for auto, for any industry, it benefits the corporations and it benefits the workforce and our membership, because it provides stability. If every local is bargaining on their own, I think you're going to see a lot more. Just there's going to be so much variation from contract to contract, from cycle to cycle, that to us, national oil bargaining has served the industry well, but more importantly, it's served our membership well. When they start trying to chip away one at a time, pull people out, that's been the industry's goal from day one. Since we started oil bargaining, the companies have been trying to get out of oil bargaining because they would rather divide and conquer. But I think if they sat back and looked at it we've only had one national strike since 1980, right? So it's actually been good for all parties. Because at the end of the day, what our people want? Our people want stability. We want
That's
prosperity for sure. We always want more, right? But people
yeah.
want stability, and the members that I talk to are just fed up with the instability since British Petroleum has just been on this whatever vendor that they're on. I mean, it's just been contract cycle after contract cycle where there's absolutely trying to gut us.
That makes sense. I guess at the end of all this, with what's currently going on, do you think this is about one refinery, or do you think this is setting the tone for future contracts?
Uh, so I think the person that's the the mastermind behind this, I think it's about his ego and his reputation. And if he's successful here, he's going to be able to go to the next place and sell his wares to the next corporation that wants to come in and just decimate families in order to eliminate a union. So for our members right now, this is the only fight that matters. But at the end of the day, for sure, right? If we're able to prevail, community support, union support, political support, if we're able to prevail, that's gonna push back on industries from doing this for quite a while. If they get their way, it's absolutely gonna just show the roadmap.
That makes sense. And I believe you said the gentleman's name was Jordan. Is that correct?
Yeah, Jordan Marks.
Jordan Marks. I'm gonna do a little research on him after we're off of here. So that's good to know.
Good luck. He scrubbed his stuff pretty good.
There's ways to find information. I can assure you of that. If this becomes what's currently going on becomes the new standard, who do you think is next in the whole picture of, I guess, union labor?
Well, I mean, just from a chronological standpoint, we've got steel bargaining is starting now. I think next week. I don't remember if it's the Cleveland Cliffs groups or if it's the Nippon Steel groups, but all summer steel's going to be bargaining. So chronologically, from at least from our perspective, it's steel's going to be next. Now, whether or not steel decides the corporations decide to come with the same attitude, the same angle, I don't know. And if they don't, and I hope they don't, then it's just going to be chronological again. Which industries are coming up around the corner? But in oil, I think if they're successful, you're definitely going to see more of this in oil.
Sad. I guess, is there anything that you want to put out there in the open space for anyone to hear, whether it's something good, bad, somewhere in between, something you'd like to tell the BP executives? I know you're in negotiating rooms with them ultimately, but more so for your members that might end up listening to this episode.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the biggest thing is a thank you to the community, because people have been great, businesses have been great, and we're asking that continues, because the concern is always that everyone just comes out. There's a lot of fanfare, there's a lot of excitement, and then things die down, and people start to forget. So that's my biggest ask is for people. I hope that we can grow some national awareness, because it's very difficult to break through the corporate media. It's barely a blip on the Chicago media at times, unless we say or do something outrageous. So let alone national media. But that is, if we can, we need to try to grow this to understand that there's 800 families that are out in the street based from a company that is just wildly profitable, basically just pure greed, right? So that's, if we can get the word out there and just help spread the word that this is going on. If people could chip in $10, $5, we've got a website, support4oilworkers.com, that gives people explains to people how they can donate if they would like to help donate, because at the end of the day, I think this is going to be a long fight. I don't think it's going to be over anytime soon, unfortunately. So we'll definitely need continued resources.
Well, I'm more than happy to get that. I'll get it from you afterwards, but I'm more than happy to get that on all my social medias. I'm happy to get that on my own websites as well. And I'm sure I can talk with my local union. I'm sure they would be happy to provide some monetary help. And then obviously local members in my area. But yeah, I'm sorry it's happening. I know he says 800 families. That in itself is a very difficult situation to be in, especially in today's economy. It's also even more sad to see a company, like I said, they made I think it was $9 billion last year in net profit, generating $190 billion. So that's pretty sickening. And it just goes to show the attack on union labor. I've noticed across the whole U.S. over the past couple of months, there's been quite a few different strikes in all different trade organizations. And it all usually stems back to the same thing, a corporate company that's wanting nothing more than to make another dollar, because it never seems like they have enough. pretty sickening to see.
And when we're celebrating 250 years of America, we've got a British company that's coming in and fucking over 800 American families. So it's an interesting dynamic. I mean, it's just, you couldn't write it. You couldn't have wrote this any differently.
That's true. That's very true. And I can't get over the fact that they're paying I mean, it makes sense in theory that they're paying these individuals almost $130 an hour, and it's purely because it's union busting at this point. I didn't really think about that prior, but hearing about it, it all makes sense now. It's disturbing.
Right. And that's money that would normally be, staying in our community. And right now we've got these 800 families that aren't able to be shopping and dining the way they would normally and doing, volunteering and helping out.
Yeah.
Instead, they're paying $127 an hour to these people that are sending that money straight back home, just sucking it right out of the region. So, but it's just, I mean, that's corporate greed these days, right? I mean, I don't think this is anything unusual anymore. Like you said, there's been dispute after dispute. I think it is weird that it's a lockout, and it seems like more times than not it's been a strike. But I think that just shows just how hell-bent they are on getting their way on this, that they're willing to lock people out.
True. Unfortunately, they have deep pockets, but there's always power in numbers. There's power in solidarity, and it's a tough situation to be in. Eric, I don't know if you have any final things you want to put out there. If you do, the floor is all yours.
I just appreciate you taking the time to have me on so I could talk to you about what's going on here in Whiting, and God bless you for streaming this, and hopefully we can help get some word out to a larger audience, because again, we could use all the help we could get. Thank you.